Chapter 2: Nonverbal Communication Cues. I didn't even realize this at first, but depending on how you adapt to life, culture actually has a strong impact on nonverbal communication. According to Wendy Wisner, cultural influences, societal, and gender norms play a vital role in shaping nonverbal attraction. Some cultures may classify certain behaviors as rude, while others may demonstrate attention seeking behaviors or investment in a crush. Let's start with eye contact. Even though eye contact can sometimes come across as rude or uncomfortable, intense and consistent eye contact can also signal interest, even if it looks cold or distant at first. In many cases, people use eye contact to assess whether someone could be a potential partner. It reflects curiosity, confidence, and sometimes even vulnerability. A cold look might act as a defense mechanism to hide shyness, or it could simply be a part of someone's personality. But when it happens consistently, it can suggest potential interest. Now let's take a look at the coy glance. It is a flirtatious cue widely recognized in females, where one tilts her head down to the side while making direct, brief eye contact with a slight smile to signal interest and invite a person to make a move. There are also smaller details to pay attention to when it comes to eye contact. Sometimes a crush will look away quickly. This can signal shyness, nervousness, or even the fear of rejection. It might also mean they don't want to be caught staring. Perhaps they could also perform a double glance by looking away and then looking back, which suggests curiosity or interest. They may look down to demonstrate shyness or even playful attraction. But on the other hand, whenever they look sideways, they are basically demonstrating indifference. However, when it comes with a smile, it could still signal interest. When eyes dilate, it can be associated with pleasure or attraction. When they constrict, it may suggest discomfort or disinterest, although this can be hard to notice in real life. A crush may also use a side glance, which reflects both timidity and attraction, allowing someone to observe you without being too obvious. There's also something called the triangle gaze, where someone shifts their focus between a crush's facial features. This is done by looking at one eye, then the mouth, then the other eye, and finally returning to the first eye consecutively. This creates a slower, more intentional form of eye contact that can feel less intimidating and more engaging. Next, we have preening and fidgeting. Preening is a grooming behavior that strikes physical attractiveness to the roof. It is a subconscious signal to attract a crush's attention through the enhancement of self beauty, adjustment of clothing, and self touch. Women often smooth their hair or brush it away from the neck to signal vulnerability and draw attention to the face. They also put on makeup to appear more presentable and appealing. On the other hand, men adjust clothing, engage in peacocking, or touch their face to boost confidence and strength, which attracts the muse. However, preening should not be confused with fidgeting. It is another behavior that creates high energy movements as a result of anxiety. For instance, one can play with objects. Perhaps they can twirl a pen, play with a necklace or a toy with a phone. They may also create movements by tapping their feet or wiggling their thighs aggressively. They may also shift positions so they can be closer to you. And during conversations, specifically verbal communication, they may struggle to find the right words. Next, we have the Duchenne smile. Guillaume Duchenne is a French neurologist and anatomist who studied the contraction of muscles that control facial expressions in the 19th century. He used small electrical probes to depict facial muscles. This led to the discovery of that bright subconscious smile that signals interest. So now, what is the Duchenne smile? A Duchenne smile is the involuntary contraction of muscles that forms the crow's feet, where the eyes crinkle and light up to signal genuine happiness and potential warmth or attraction when combined with other nonverbal body signals. It also lifts mouth corners, raises the cheeks, forms eye bags, and slightly moves upper eyelids downwards. On the other hand, a non-Duchenne smile lacks muscle contraction around the eyes and is often used to appear polite or showcase discomfort. Another behavior is what I call peripheral monitoring. This is when someone observes their crush without looking at them directly. For instance, one may use side vision or their friends, or what I call scouts, to gather intel on the crush's whereabouts to avoid vulnerability or embarrassment when caught. This behavior usually occurs due to intense infatuation and focus. It is a popular technique to gauge interest and detect when a crush is looking at you, but it can also lead to misinterpretation since it is a passive form of communication. On the other hand, when you are attracted to someone, he or she becomes the center of attention. This is known as the focal point. You start paying attention to someone's actions, thoughts, emotions, and whereabouts rather than your own surroundings. That is because the brain releases dopamine and norepinephrine as serotonin levels decrease. This increases focus and emotional intensity, which can make someone stand out more than others. This connects to something called the halo effect. According to Kia Rai Pruitt, PhD in psychology, the halo effect is a type of cognitive bias where a positive trait or impression creates a false assumption of other qualities such as intelligence, kindness, or humor. Focal points are demonstrated through prolonged eye contact, torso, and feet pointing directly at the person, raised eyebrows, leaning forward, and upright body posture to signal confidence and attentiveness. Mirroring, or isopraxism, is another powerful sign. This is when one subconsciously copies your actions, speech, or behavior to signal comfort and attraction. For instance, if you lean at a table, they might lean forward too. If you cross your legs, they would also cross theirs. It just takes a minute or two to copy someone's position. But did you also know that an individual can match your high energy, facial expressions, and catchphrases? Based on experience, it is possible for a crush to mimic a sentence mentioned weeks ago. I was waiting in the bathroom line back in November, using my polite greeting to thank the staff member. A few days later, she mentioned the same phrase, and I was bewildered. This is an example of vocal mirroring, where one does this to build rapport and connection, which determines reciprocity. On the other hand, just like how a peacock shows off its colorful feathers, Humans can reflect this behavior by standing out in a group. This is known as peacocking. For example, we may dress in a flashy, captivating way that allows our crush to engage interest. Women tend to focus on makeup and settle for high fashion to enhance their beauty and appear glamorous for their counterpart. On the other hand, men tend to tidy their hair and wear expensive accessories or extravagant jackets to appear more confident and open. Peacocking is not just based on fashion as a whole, it can also be behavioral. For instance, one can dominate the whole social group by being a loudmouth to ensure that everyone is watching you. Whether you're male or female, your confidence can stand out, which is an excellent way to build rapport. Finally, we have proximity. Proximity describes closeness in distance, time, or space. In the context of a crush, individuals fall for those whom they frequently see in close environments. Based on repeated interaction and increased familiarity, this makes someone more attractive, leading to stronger platonic or romantic relationships. This is called the mere exposure effect. It influences our development of preferences over certain things, which can, quote unquote, limit our exposure to new things. And I've stated that this quote highlights the nature of the proximity effect, where repeated exposure to individuals may overvalue safe choices, creating anxiety and avoiding risks. Hence, individuals are more likely to develop crushes on people within their environment rather than seek new or unfamiliar connections. All of these nonverbal cues can give us insight into attraction, but none of them are guaranteed signs on their own. In Chapter 3, we will connect mathematical theory with the science behind attraction in a crush context. This incorporates a simple study of trigonometry and a more in depth study of the anatomy of the brain, hormones, and romantic chemistry. Thank you.